So, welcome to 2025 everybody. First in a new series of videos, we're going to look at barley first of all on this. So some of the considerations for choosing a barley variety for 2025. Yield is of course a major factor when choosing a variety because ultimately that is the unit we get paid on. And when I look at the costings across all the farms I visit, it is still the number one driver of profitability. But there's also disease resistance to things like net blotch, lodging, how the crop stands up on fertile sites, and of course grain quality, which is vital for a malting barley variety. Let's take a look at the reasons to grow barley and the attraction to farmers. Now, some of the great things about barley are the competitiveness of this crop, the way in which it absolutely covers the ground and competes with weeds. Obviously, grass weeds can still be difficult. This crop is quite tolerant to nematodes compared to wheat. So if you grow this after something like canola, it can be very, very good at making use of that clean grass-free break and a big reduction in fusarium and things like take-all as well after canola, obviously. So this planet looks absolutely beautiful, but if we look inside, this is a plot that has had no fungicide, and we can start to see net blotch in there. Barley leaf stripe, and little bits of ramularia just appearing. And when this variety came out, it was obviously very, very clean indeed. Naturally, as varieties get older, they break down to these diseases, and it's more of a challenge to manage them. This one has had fungicide. It is a little bit cleaner, not massively so, but there is a reduction in net blotch in here through the crop. So 2 fungicides are really a must with Planet these days. So I've got here 2 varieties that are very popular in South Africa. I've got Malgas on this side. It's very hardy, very stable. In the ultimate best seasons, it will stand very well. It's a little bit quicker than, say, Planet, a lot quicker than things like Laureate. Its real forte is that it's got very good net blotch resistance. What it won't do in the very strongest high yielding sites is reach the high yield potential of Planet. But actually for most farmers that's not what drives profitability. So it's a good, stable, hardy performer, this one. Behind me here is Neptune, which is a little bit later. It's probably a day or 2 later to harvest than Planet. Still from South Africa brewers. It's a very clean variety. It gets a little bit of spot form net blotch, but actually it's a really nice, easy variety to grow with probably a bit more vigour than Malgas, maybe not as much as the likes of Planet or Laureate, but a lot more vigorous than the old style barleys, the likes of Cocktail. These are in national performance trials, and they, with any luck, they'll be registered later this year if all goes to plan. Now, we don't actually have Laureate here, but we tried it for several years and we've really got a good feel for what it does. Laureate is grown as a dual use variety, so the biggest market for that variety is in the UK, where it goes for brewing, but actually mainly these days for whiskey distilling. And there's not many varieties that can distill as well as malt for beer. These 2 are sister varieties of Laureate, not released yet, just getting a feel for how they perform. One's got very good net blotch resistance, the other one you can sort of see hasn't got anything like as good. But these are real racehorse varieties, so if you're in a position where you're nice and high on Mount Rock and you're giving it everything, these will really stretch and shoot the high yields. But they are not the most stable, so they're bred for a maritime environment or climate where temperatures are a bit cooler, seasons a bit steadier. So if you're really on top of your game in a nice soft area, these are the sort of things that we'll likely see in the future, and that's where Laureate really sits. But for everybody else, some of the earlier varieties are a little bit better suited. Won't hit the high yields, but certainly things like a Lyciana, for example, a little bit more stable. So it's worth me mentioning that we compile all of our data every year into our crop choices variety guide. So let's have a look inside that and just see what some of the other options are and what we've learned from all these different trial sites over the years. First up, we've got Planet, It's the variety that is most widely grown, best understood, so we call that our control variety, and that represents the 100% yield mark. It's now only rated a 4 out of 9 for net blotch resistance. It's a 6 out of 9 for standing power, but screenings are very low. Nitrogen is low, and speed of maturity is a 7. Going on to Grace, that is 89% of the control, so 11% lower yield than Planet across all the trials. It's a 6 for net blotch, which is better, but slightly more screenings and nitrogen, although it's quick to mature. Laureate is 97% across all the trials, so that's achieved a yield just 3% below Planet on average. It's a 6 for net blotch, which is a lot better, only a 5 for standing, with low to moderate screenings and nitrogen, but late maturity. Cocktail is now outclassed, but in the last range of trials it was in, that and Quench were only around 75% of the control yields, if not below that. They're rated around 3 for net blotch. The standing power is good, particularly on Cocktail, but both are quite poor on screenings, nitrogen, and have a slow 5 out of 9 rating for maturity speed. Thanks for joining me. There'll be more videos coming soon looking at canola over my shoulder, and peas here. How they fit into the rotation might actually be of huge benefit for you on your farm for 2025.